Hey everybody, long time no see. This is TUSDarryl back again with another review. This time around we're doing Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, a game where you play as, you guessed it, Senua, on her journey to revive a lost loved one. Or at least, that's the condensed version of it. Hopping into a bit of the story, Senua suffers from a mental disorder called psychosis, a severe mental disorder in which thought and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with external reality, or at least that's Google's definition of it. I'm sure there's more deep and specific ways to describe it, but that's Google's definition of it. In the game, you'll encounter voices in your mind or in her mind as they cheer for Senua, but also bring her down, as they bring her down and then proceed to bring her even lower. These voices torment her throughout the game, and you play the role of someone who is kind of tagging along. In a way, you can be perceived as another voice in your head, just one that remains silent. Either way around, you're with Senua on her journey to find Hela, who has the soul of her dead lover. Of course, things are going to get a lot more complicated than just that. Moving on to graphics. Graphically, Hellblade looks gorgeous, astonishing. I had to stop several times in the game just to take several screenshots that some I probably won't even look at again, and others I was trying to decide on, which would be the best thumbnail. Maybe this one, maybe this one, maybe this one, just because the game looks so really, so, I almost said so really gorgeous, but, just so, well, gorgeous, so beautiful to look at. I know I sound like I'm gushing about it a lot, but it's not just on the graphical level, but also on how the game handles. My machine is strong enough to run it at a full 60 frames per second, but of course, OBS being OBS and my processor being my processor, I think they tend to argue a little bit or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but I had to dial it back. But even on its medium settings, the game looks really good. And that says a lot for a game that, well, it says a lot for a game in general. If the game looks just as good on its average settings than it does maxed out. And that could also be due to the very, very good texture work. So, graphically speaking, Hellblade looks great. Really great. Moving on to sound.
They call me Truth. A liar.
He's
An old fool.
I see you! I see you now! You led me to the wilds! You trapped me there! Behind you!
It's superb. That's really the most I can really say there. I know it sounds like I'm giving the game a lot of praise, but I don't give anything a lot of praise unless I really think it deserves it. Audio separation is something that I tend to really pay attention to in a lot of games. Like, can I tell one sound from another? If there are a million one things going on in the game, can I tell what's triggering what, what's happening here, what's happening there? And not for a moment do things get chaotic in Hellblade. Of course, not without the game allowing it. Of course, sometimes the voices will be overlaying each other. Some will be quiet in the background. Some will be in the far distance to your left ear. Some will be in the far distance in your right ear. Sometimes they'll be in the back of your head. Sometimes they'll be in front of your face. But that is intended. And it makes you feel like you're really not alone, even though technically you are. Musically, the game doesn't really have a lot of music going for it, but in the scores that you do hear, they count. I particularly love the tracks you hear towards the end of the game. For those of you who know those moments where I get quiet and I just zone completely into whatever I'm doing towards the end of the game, then you know what I mean. Voice work is also really good. I normally don't talk about it, but it's convincing. And I know that's really weird to say, but I'm used to some lines just being anywhere from, or some voices being anywhere from acceptable to great, but to convince me that Senua is feeling all of this pain and all this confusion, I felt like she was going to break any moment. That's how convincing it was. But with that, moving on to gameplay. Ignore the sirens. I don't recall any bugs off the top of my head that got in the way of gameplay, so I'm just going to hop right into the meat and bones of the gameplay here. The gameplay is very much a hack and slash game. Some people argue, oh, it's just a walking simulator where you're just walking most of the time. I would say there's enough game here to justify calling it a hack and slash game, more so than a walking simulator. Yes, the game walks and takes its time, introducing you to the lore and the background, and it's very atmospheric. But when the combat gets going, it gets going. It's invigorating. It's a lot of fun mixing light and heavy attacks, but you also have to be careful because you can't die all that often. I don't know how many deaths it takes for this to happen, but in the beginning of the game, I'm just going to go ahead and say this now. In the beginning of the game, you get a certain growth, a certain darkness on your right arm. That's if you die too much and it grows and grows and grows up into her head, permadeath is activated. She's dead. Save game is wiped. You have to start all the way over. Knowing that will make you think twice about your decisions. Now, checkpoints in the game are I'd say they're pretty generous. They don't necessarily feel cheap unless you didn't get to one in time. I don't think that they're going to screw you over in any kind of way if you're worried about, am I going to get to this checkpoint in time? Am I going to get to that one in time? Because most of the time, over time, Senua's going to heal. Now, of course, if you find back-to-back fights, you're going to have some trouble. But the game is a little more generous than you're led on to believe in that regard. That said, that doesn't mean go willy-nilly. These bosses in the game, they don't play. One of them, as you may have saw on my Let's Play, I did kind of cheese to death. But the one before that, I'm not going to spoil that one, but the one before that, the one where I had to get the specific item I used to cheese the second boss fight, that was a pain in the butt. That was a pain in the butt of a fight. Either way around, though, I had loads of fun with the game. So, how do I rate this? Simply put, in my opinion, Hellblade is a go for it. It's a lot of fun with a fantastic story, great acting, the visuals are beautiful. You really can't go wrong with this game, especially when it's sitting at $30. The game is $30. It's a self-proclaimed indie AAA game. It has the production values of a AAA game, but it has the price of an indie game, or it says small as indie game. Either way around, you cannot go wrong getting this game for $30, even if you're skeptical about it. That's half the price of a full price game that you find on a shelf in a GameStop. Typically, if it's, a major company or whatnot. You can't go wrong with Senua. You can't go wrong with Hellblade, Senua Sacrifice. You have my full recommendation, unless you really just don't like some of the psychological nature of the game, or if you don't like hack and slash, action-based combat and whatnot. But I feel like even then, if you find it on sale, definitely pick it up. Otherwise, if you're sold on this, I say go for it. You will not regret it. I know it's been a really long time coming. I've been gone for a while. Work got hectic. But if you're checking out this review and whatnot, I really appreciate it. I plan on having more videos up on the channel over time. But until then, I'll catch you guys later. See ya.